Block buildings consist of blocks stacked in vertical columns. You can add columns, delete columns, or select columns by clicking on the nodes in the scene. In the selection toolbar, you can align the selected columns to a straight line, select all columns, duplicate the selection, or delete the selection. We can control row selection with the row select fields. We can duplicate multiple rows and columns or delete them. We will now create some curved columns. Curvature controls tangent length and declination tangent direction. Let's now look into the block properties. We can control left and right block height. You can see that the block height is synchronized with the heights of neighboring blocks. You can disable the synchronization separately for left and right edge of the block. We can span the block along multiple columns. Now we need to disable the mesh of the overlapped block by checking its empty field. Let's now add some materials. We can override materials for each block. We can edit the block UV and also UV for a whole building. We can use composition of both UV settings or disable each of them separately. You can see that now the global UV does not affect the block. Let's now create some procedurally generated window. When the window size is relative, the window stretches to the block size. When we uncheck this field, the window size is constant. Let's now edit UVs of this window. The texture UV can even be flipped upside down. You can copy and paste blocks and columns by the C and P buttons on respective toolbars. We don't want this block to span across 2 columns. The copying and pasting works even across different buildings. Generated windows can also be curved along a curve. Even custom supplied meshes can be bent along a curve. Let's now stretch this mesh to a whole block by the relative size setting. When the mesh overflows over the edge of the block, it is swallowed by the edge. The mesh can be moved within the block and scaled as well. Let's now add some roofs. Roofs span between columns specified by column range. The tops of the roofs are attached to these anchors that we see on top of each column. Each roof segment can be attached to 1 or 2 anchors. The shape of the ledge can be configured. You can also control the sharpness of the ledge normals. You can see that the normals are totally sharp. Ledges on the left, front and right of the roof segment can be individually enabled and disabled. Let's now add more roof segments. We can see that the normals here don't look very well. This can be solved by splitting this segment into two. We will now make one pointed roof by assigning same anchor to all the roof segments. Let's choose the anchor 5. The roof UV is compressed along horizontal direction. Let's fix that. Now we need to add some details to the building. We can select custom mesh. The mesh is positioned relatively to the selected block. The block is controlled by the block property. X is block column and Y is block row. You can control the relative position of the detail to the block. Also set individual rotation and scale. We can also flip neighboring blocks and columns. We will now make some changes to the block so we can see the result. Clicking these buttons in toolbars will switch blocks or columns. We can also merge blocks with neighboring blocks. Let's now copy a whole column.